Hey, so what's going on, everyone? So today we're looking at the Nintendo Game Boy, originally released in the United States in 1989, as well as Europe and Japan. It was originally released in Japan on April 21st, 1989, and saw its way into the US on July 21st, 1989. Game Boy was designed by Gunpei Yokoi, who would later become infamous for designing the Virtual Boy, but these were in his more successful days. He originally got the idea for inventing a handheld device while watching a businessman play around with a calculator. This would lead to him inventing a watch series of games in 1981, and of course lead down the way to the Game Boy, which certainly could actually be full-length games and more of a story than just a quick game on a watch. But over 118 million units were sold in its lifetime, which was until 2003. There were several generations: the Game Boy Pocket, the Game Boy Light, which is the same thing, and then the Game Boy Color. And eventually that saw its way to its successor, the Game Boy Advance, and the Game Boy Advance SP. The one thing you're going to notice about my Game Boy, which is different than most Game Boys, is it's green. The original color was more of a cream, had red buttons. In 1995, Nintendo came up with what was called the Play It Loud series of Game Boys, which were red, blue was Europe only, white, yellow, and a clear. As you can see, mine has some signs of aging. I got this about 7-8 years ago at a swap meet for about $8. I'm not sure what the going rate is on these things nowadays. Like I said, apparently I found green is a rare color, so I've seen these online for about 30-40 bucks. Don't know if it's actually worth that or if it's just people are deciding to charge. You can see that there used to be a sticker or something right around where the screen is, so got to clean that up a little bit more in the future. I have Pokemon Silver currently plugged in. Pokemon is probably one of the most famous games that was ever released on the Game Boy. In fact, without the Game Boy and without Pokemon, Nintendo might not be where it's at today. One game that Nintendo for sure made famous, one game that the Game Boy for sure made famous was Tetris. It was released with every console when it was originally released. Tetris had been around on the PC for a couple of years since it was able to get out of the Soviet Union. That's a whole other story, which you should look up because it's very interesting. And that certainly helped soar its popularity because it was already a popular game on the PC, and now you can play it on the go, which was a game meant for the go. Just a quick, easy game, nothing too hard of a story anyone could pick up. And certainly a lot of people did start picking it up. In fact, the NES had about a 26% female usage rate, while on the Game Boy it was about half at 46%. So it was certainly wasn't your typical gamer, and was getting into the hands of everyone, and young and old. The Game Boy was released 4 years after the NES originally came out, and as well as an 8-bit processor. Right around the time that the Sega Genesis and SNES were about to come out with 16-bit processors. But the main competitor to the Game Boy was the Atari Lynx. And the main selling point was this was around $90, while the Atari Lynx was around $190. So certainly about a $100 difference, which, if you're a parent, which one are you buying? Game Boy? As well as Nintendo did have the recognizability of the NES, which certainly did not hurt either. Now let's get into the actual look of the Game Boy. As I already pointed out earlier, the color differences and all that, but the game itself displays 4 different shades of gray. There's no backlighting. There was a lot of third-party means that came out to backlight it. I've heard varying reviews of these pieces of equipment. Certainly, the best way to do it is if you go on YouTube now, and if you were to buy one of these, there's a way to retrofit it with its own personal backlighting, so there's no no accessory over the screen or anything that's annoying and gonna just eat up batteries. Speaking of, takes 4 batteries. You can see I don't currently have them here. And it certainly went through them fast and ate them up fast. So this would definitely go into a disadvantage factory, but the Game Boy Pocket / Light and Color would only use 2 in the future and could play the same games the Game Boy could play. But obviously those are several years away and had the advancement of technology on its side. The Game Boy Advance, on the other hand, would have a rechargeable battery, but that's about a decade away. So for now, 4 batteries, 4 AA batteries. And watch your wallet go empty. The Game Boy is still beloved by many to this day and has high asking prices on eBay and retro video game stores, and many of the games are still easy to find and fun to play. A lot of the Pokemon games, the original ones, are some of the most sought after games for the system, and certainly still fun with low graphics and low resolution. Even more fun, in my personal opinion, than some of the newer Pokemon games that have come out. The simplicity of it is what makes it so special. I don't think there's much more to say than that. So now it's time to show some actual gameplay on what the Game Boy looks like. Firing up Pokemon Silver right now. There's a contrast option on the side. Sorry, it's hard to tell with the light. It's volume. There, you just use this. There's a pretty good mix right there. Guess you can tell how hard it is to keep it so you can actually see it with the light. As you can tell, all those 4 shades of gray at work.